Welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to dive right in, so make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. The 1980p Washington Quarter is a widely collected coin in American numismatics, part of the long-running Washington Quarter series that began in 1932 and continues into modern coinage. This particular issue, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, is noteworthy for being one of the early quarters to bear a P mint mark, as Philadelphia coins before 1980 traditionally had no identifying mark. Located on the obverse, to the right of George Washington's ribbon-tied hair, the small p signifies that the coin was produced in the Philadelphia Mint, reflecting a change in U.S. Mint policy aimed at increasing transparency and traceability of coin production across different facilities. The obverse design, unchanged since its inception in 1932, features a left-facing bust of George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan, based on the famous Jean-Antoine Houdon bust of Washington from 1785. Surrounding Washington's portrait are inscriptions familiar to American coinage. Liberty arches across the top rim, symbolizing the nation's founding ideals. In God We Trust appears to the left of Washington's chin, serving as both a religious and patriotic motto officially adopted during the 20th century, and the date 1980 sits neatly centered at the bottom. The mint mark P is clearly placed just above the date, making this issue historically significant for collectors who value the first widely used Philadelphia mint mark on U.S. coinage. The reverse design, consistent with Washington quarters minted from 1932 until the beginning of the 1999 state quarters program, depicts the powerful image of a heraldic eagle. With wings spread in a commanding and symmetrical posture, the eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, representing the nation's strength and readiness to defend itself, while an olive branch rests just below, symbolizing America's pursuit of peace. The eagle stands centered beneath the bold inscription United States of America that curls across the top, and directly beneath this is a Latin motto, E pluribus unum, translating to out of many, one. This motto reflects the unity of the states into a single nation. At the bottom rim is a denomination, clearly spelled out as $quarter, ensuring easy recognition for commerce. The overall design reflects a balance between patriotism, classical symbolism, and functional clarity, which is why it endured virtually unchanged for more than 6 decades. In terms of physical composition, the 1980p quarter belongs to the clad coinage era that began in 1965 after the removal of silver from circulating dimes and quarters. Instead of being 90% silver and 10% copper like pre-1965 quarters, the 1980 quarter is made of copper-nickel clad, with an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition gives the coin its modern silvery color while making it far more cost-effective for mass production. The standard specifications include a weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, and a reeded edge consisting of 119 tiny grooves to deter counterfeiting and shaving of the coin's edges. These clad quarters are durable and intended for heavy use in circulation, making pristine uncirculated examples, or those preserved in high mint state grades, much more desirable to collectors. The Philadelphia Mint struck a very large number of these coins in 1980, with a total mintage exceeding 635 million pieces. This huge production run ensured that the 1980p quarter entered everyday commerce in vast numbers, making it a common date in circulated condition. However, within the series, it marks a historically important point because of the first use of the P mint mark on a quarter. Most circulated specimens from this year show wear on Washington's hair above the ear, on the cheek and jawline, and on the eagle's breast and wing feathers, since these are the highest relief points where wear becomes evident first. Collectors often look for coins that remain crisp, with full details visible in the eagle's feathers and Washington's hair strands. From a numismatic standpoint, circulated examples hold face value or slight premium, but uncirculated coins in mint state MS grades are more sought after. In particular, coins graded MS65 or higher by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC can bring a higher premium due to their luster, strike sharpness, and absence of contact marks. Exceptional coins with strong strikes and brilliant surfaces sometimes exhibit a pleasing cartwheel effect under light. A few 1980p quarters are also known with minor die varieties or errors, such as double dies, off-center strikes, or planchette floors, and these specialized varieties can command collector interest far beyond their face value. Proof examples of the year, however, were not struck at Philadelphia but at the San Francisco Mint, bearing the S Mint mark, and are distinguishable by their mirror-like fields and frosted design elements. Historically, the 1980 P Washington quarter represents a transitional point in U.S. minting history. While not rare, it carries a symbolic weight of Philadelphia finally adopting its own mint mark after nearly 2 centuries of minting coins without one. This makes it a landmark issue for numismatists who study changes in mint policy and coin identification practices. For collectors assembling data and mint mark sets of Washington quarters, the 1980 P is essential, not because of rarity, but because of its role in the story of American coinage. It is a coin that bridges tradition with a new era of mint mark uniformity, and thus even a common example in circulation can be appreciated for its place in numismatic history. The 1982 P Washington quarter is a coin that at first glance might seem ordinary, just another circulating piece of modern American coinage, yet within the larger narrative of United States numismatic history, it carries significance that is easily overlooked by casual observers. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a period of economic challenge and transition, this coin embodies both continuity and change. The Washington Quarter series itself began in 1932 as a commemoration of the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. John Flanagan's design, adapted from the French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon's celebrated bust of Washington, was intended to be used for a single commemorative year. Instead, the design proved so popular that it became the permanent quarter design for more than 6 decades, only replaced by the State Quarters program in 1999. The 1982 P issue, therefore, falls into the long stretch of heraldic eagle reverses that dominated from 1932 through 1998. On the obverse, Washington's left-facing portrait is bold and dignified, its classic neoclassical style representing not only the man but also the values of Republican virtue and civic leadership. Above the portrait, arching along the rim, appears the word liberty, a central ideal in the American story, anchoring the coin in both national identity and the ideological roots of the Republic. To the left of Washington's throat, in small but assertive lettering, is "In God We Trust," the official motto of the United States since 1956, and a phrase that reflects the intersection of American political heritage with religious expression. Beneath Washington's portrait, centered at the lower rim, is the date 1982, firmly situating the coin within its historical era. To the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon is a small but highly meaningful P mint mark, indicating Philadelphia. This mint mark is especially significant because the Philadelphia Mint had only begun using the P mark on quarters in 1980. Thus, the 1982 P represents just the 3rd year of Philadelphia minted quarters that were identifiable as such after nearly 2 centuries of anonymous production. For collectors, this detail anchors a coin in the narrative of mint mark reform and transparency. Turning to the reverse, one encounters a majestic heraldic eagle, wings fully extended in a symmetrical and commanding pose. In its talons, the eagle clasps a bundle of arrows, symbolizing American readiness for defense, while an olive branch is placed just below, representing a commitment to peace. The contrast between these two elements reflects a dual message that the United States strives for peace yet will defend its sovereignty if challenged. Above the eagle, boldly inscribed along the rim, is United States of America, affirming national identity. Directly beneath this is a Latin motto, E pluribus unum, translating to out of many, one, a phrase that succinctly expresses a unity of diverse states and peoples under a single federal union. At the lower rim, balancing the composition, is a denomination quarter dollar, making the coin's value clear to all users in commerce. This reverse design, executed by John Flanagan, remained largely unchanged for decades and became one of the most familiar images in daily American life, its symbolism etched into the memories of millions who use these coins for everyday purchases. In terms of physical specifications, the 1982 P quarter conforms to the copper-nickel-clad composition that had been mandated since 1965. Its outer layers consist of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core, giving it both durability and a silvery color that mimics older silver coinage. The total weight is 5.67 grams, with a diameter of 24.3 millimeters and a reeded edge containing 119 tiny grooves. These reeded edges, once a safeguard against the clipping of precious metal in earlier silver coinage, continued into the clad era as a measure of standardization and security. The clad quarters ring of exposed copper on its edge became a familiar sight to Americans from the late 1960s onward, distinguishing it from earlier silver issues that were often hoarded or melted. The year 1982 was a turbulent one economically. The United States faced a deep recession, high unemployment, and inflationary pressures that had carried over from the 1970s. These conditions directly influenced the U.S. Mint's decisions. In an effort to cut costs, the Mint decided not to issue official uncirculated mint sets to collectors in 1982 or 1983. This decision had a dramatic numismatic consequence. While hundreds of millions of 1982 quarters were struck for commerce, few were preserved in pristine condition by collectors at the time. As a result, high-grade 1982p quarters are surprisingly difficult to find today compared to many other common modern quarters. Most surviving examples are heavily circulated, exhibiting the typical wear on Washington's cheek and hair, as well as flattening of the eagle's breast feathers. Only a small fraction exists in Mint State 65 or higher, and those that do can command significant premiums on the collector market, despite the mintage of more than 500 million coins. The mintage figure itself is substantial. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 500,931,000 quarters in 1982, a number that ensured the coin's presence in every corner of the country. Yet, paradoxically, it is precisely this massive mintage combined with the absence of government-issued collector sets that makes the 1982p intriguing. In circulated grades, the coin remains common in worth face value, but in uncirculated condition, especially with sharp strikes and minimal contact marks, it is much scarcer than its mintage would suggest. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC certify relatively few at the GEM MS65 level or higher, and examples with the attractive cartwheel luster and clean fields are particularly prized. From a collector's perspective, the 1982p is not merely another date to fill a hole in a Washington quarter album. It tells a deeper story. It reflects a period when the U.S. Mint made cost-driven decisions that unintentionally created future rarities in higher grades. It demonstrates the evolution of mint mark policy, with Philadelphia coins no longer anonymous. It represents a continuation of the Washington design during a period of national economic struggle, yet also a time when American coinage was remarkably stable in design and composition compared to the experimental changes of the mid-20th century. Furthermore, it illustrates how historical context, recessions, mint policy shifts, collector behavior, can transform a coin's status over time from ordinary to unexpectedly interesting. Some collectors also pursue error varieties from the 1982p issue. Missed strikes such as off-center coins, double strikes, or planchette floors occasionally surface and are pursued as curiosities. Certain double die obverse or reverse varieties, though relatively minor, add another layer of specialty collecting for those who wish to explore the year in greater detail. These era coins provide a glimpse into the high-speed mass production environment of the Philadelphia Mint, where hundreds of millions of coins had to be struck quickly and efficiently. In the broader narrative of American numismatics, the 1982p Washington quarter serves as a reminder that not all significance lies in rarity of production, but sometimes in rarity of preservation. It underscores a reality that modern coins, often dismissed as common, can become challenging. The 1983D Washington quarter is one of those coins that seems utterly common when first encountered in circulation, but upon closer inspection, it reveals layers of history, economics, and numismatic intrigue that make it much more than a simple piece of pocket change. Struck at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the small D mint mark located on the obverse of the coin to the right of George Washington's tied hair ribbon, this quarter belongs to the long-running Washington Quarter series, which had been in production since 1932. The Denver issue of 1983 is especially significant in numismatic study because, like the 1982 quarters, it belongs to a short period when the U.S. Mint did not release official uncirculated coin sets to collectors. This decision has had major consequences for the preservation of high-quality examples, making the 1983D surprisingly scarce in pristine condition today, despite its enormous production run. On the obverse, the design by sculptor John Flanagan features a bold left-facing bust of the first President of the United States, George Washington. The portrait, Originally based on Jean-Antoine Houdon's 18th century bust of Washington, had by 1983 become one of the most familiar images in American daily life. Above the portrait, arching across the upper rim, appears the simple but powerful word liberty, reminding Americans of the nation's founding principle. To the left of Washington's throat, just under the hairline, is a national motto, "In God We Trust," which became standard on U.S. coinage in the 20th century and serves as a blending of civic and spiritual identity. At the bottom, neatly centered, lies the date 1983, indicating the year striking. Just to the right of the ribbon in the back of Washington's hair, the D mint mark denotes the Denver Mint, a facility that by the 1980s was a powerhouse of U.S. coin production. This placement of the mint mark had only recently become consistent, since the Philadelphia Mint itself began using the P mark on quarters in 1980, breaking with more than a century of anonymity. Thus, the mint mark on a 1983 D quarter helps tie it to a broader shift in mint policy and numismatic tradition. The reverse design is equally iconic. Centered is a powerful image of a heraldic eagle, its wings spread in a symmetrical and commanding pose that evokes dignity and national pride. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, representing American military readiness and the ability to defend the Republic, while below it lies an olive branch, a reminder that the nation seeks peace above all but stand prepared for conflict if necessary. Above the eagle, arching across the rim, is the inscription United States of America, asserting national authority. Directly below this, in smaller letters, is a classical Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. This motto captures the essence of American unity, a single nation forged from many states and diverse peoples. At the lower rim appears the denomination quarter dollar, which made the coin's value instantly recognizable to all who handled it. John Flanagan's design, essentially unchanged since 1932, reflected traditional U.S. coinage aesthetics, symmetrical, neoclassical, and rooted in symbolic strength. From a technical perspective, the 1983 D quarter follows the copper-nickel-clad standard that had been in place since 1965. Its composition consists of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This sandwiching process not only gave the coin its silvery appearance, but also enhanced durability for heavy circulation. The specifications remain constant for modern quarters: a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, a weight of 5.67 grams, and a reeded edge with 119 ridges. Although by 1983 these technical details were so routine as to be invisible to most Americans, they represented decades of experimentation and adaptation by the Mint, especially after the removal of silver in the mid-1960s. The clad quarter's exposed copper edge became a hallmark of circulating coinage, marking the end of the silver era and the permanence of clad designs. The mintage of the 1983 D quarter was enormous, totaling more than 617 million pieces, which placed it among the mass-produced workhorse coins of the 1980s. Yet, paradoxically, the year 1983 is one of the most challenging for collectors seeking pristine mint state examples. This difficulty stems from the U.S. Mint's decision not to issue official uncirculated coin sets in 1982 or 1983. These sets had historically preserved large numbers of fresh, uncirculated coins for the collector market. Their absence meant that virtually all 1983 quarters entered circulation, where they were subjected to wear contact marks and rough handling. As a result, finding an example in truly gem condition, graded MS65 or higher, is far more difficult than the mintage might suggest. In circulated grades, the 1983 D remains worth face value, but in high mint state grades, it commands a premium because of its scarcity in such condition. The condition challenges of the 1983 D are well known to numismatists. Most surviving examples show heavy wear on Washington's cheek, hair curls above the ear, and on the eagle's breast and wing feathers, which are the highest points of relief. Contact marks from mass production and circulation further reduce eye appeal. Coins that display strong strikes, full luster, and clean surfaces are considerably scarcer than one would expect for a coin struck in such high numbers. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC certify relatively few 1983 D quarters above MS65, and those in MS67 or better are true condition rarities, often selling for substantial sums compared to face value. The situation underscores a principle that rarity in numismatics is not only about mintage, but about survival in high quality. Errors and die varieties also provide a secondary area of collecting interest for this coin. Off-center strikes, double dies, and clip planches are sometimes seen among 1983 D quarters, adding variety for specialists. While not as widely publicized as certain famous varieties in other series, these anomalies bring additional depth to the study of the year's coinage. Collectors of Washington quarters often seek such pieces to complement their standard examples, giving a fuller picture of the production environment at the Denver Mint during that time. Historically, the 1983 D quarter also reflects the economic backdrop of the early 1980s. The United States was emerging from the sharp recession of 1981 to 1982, marked by high unemployment, rising interest rates, and inflationary pressures. By 1983, the economy was beginning to recover under President Ronald Reagan's administration, and the Mint's enormous production of coins like the 1983 D quarter reflected the rebound in commerce and cash transactions. At the same time, Mint cost-cutting measures, such as the cancellation of uncirculated sets, illustrate the federal government's attempts to economize during lean years. Thus, the 1983 D quarter becomes a small but tangible artifact of its era, linking numismatics to broader economic history. In the grand arc of the Washington quarter series, the 1983 D holds a special position. While not a rare coin in absolute numbers, it is part of a short 2-year window, 1982 and 1983, in which collector preservation was drastically curtailed, unintentionally creating modern condition rarities. It marks a continuation of the long-lived heraldic eagle design, which had by then been in use for over